Yeah, this is probably a 1 out of 10.
My name is Bradley, and welcome to the pilot episode of Brad's Weekly Tasting, or something like that. I haven't actually officially came up with the name. Now, of course, I chose this week to do it of all weeks because, oh my god, we got an overload week. Bing, bing, ding, 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 ding. God, there's so many damn releases today, even this far in the year of 2018, which shocks me considering how much goddamn good music has already been released. Of course, I'm using album of the year, and here it is. What the f is this? Oh, that's Little Dragon, not Imagine Dragons. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. What the hell? Oh my god! Lil Peep, Muse, and Imagine Dragons. Now looking at the what people have already rated it, it doesn't matter. Look, people like to rate things with their first listen, so we don't assume anything from that. We got so much stuff to look at. Oh my gosh, and I'm excited. So let's get a taste. Let's react to the singles of the week. We got the new JPEGMAFIA song, Puff Daddy. JPEGMAFIA came out with Veteran this year. He is blown up. He has gotten so much clout. The new Earl single, I want to definitely talk about that, as well as this Ariana Grande single. God damn, dude, how much music was released today? Let's start off by listening to this JPEGMAFIA song, Puff Daddy. I'm curious where he'll take the style. Let's check it out. Alright, I'm already interested.
Oh, kidding.
Banger alert, we got a banger, holy crap, can we get a banger alert? Woo! Woo! Which now brings me to the Earl Sweatshirt song, and goddamn man, I'm telling you dude, the hype train is non-stop. I gotta watch my step. First I had to find it. It's a very short cut, but I would say this definitely reminds me a lot of JPEGMAFIA, but it's definitely an Earl's lane. I like that. And Ariana Grande, Thank You, next, which is pretty dismissive. Let's see if this is a good song. It's already got like 50 million plays. This is so mature. What the f? I don't know how to explain it to you, but like the level of personality that was on that song was pretty unreal.
Alright, now it's time to do some quick talking.
Alright, so Puff Daddy by JPEGMAFIA, that song, I gotta say, I thought that beat was pretty unbelievable. The production was just like top notch. It was so glitchy. It really stuck to his style. It was a short song, but you know, it definitely delivered what it needed to. It was a hell of a banger. That new Earl Sweatshirt song, Nowhere to Go, was very short. He's doing a great job at trailing off from his other sound, trying something a little new. I do like the direction he's going though. I like how dark and how different this is. It felt very warped. So Thank You next by Ariana Grande definitely is a song that's very, I guess, blunt. I can't stress to you enough how much I like this song just because how personal it feels. It's super catchy. I like the instrumental. God damn, Ariana, you really came through with, you came through. I think that's all for the singles, actually. Yeah, wow, there was not a ton. Now we gotta get into some projects today. It's time to react to some albums. This week we got a couple of projects that we gotta check out, and by a couple I mean, wow, there's a lot of albums. What the f? On top of the albums that I need to check out due to critical acclaim, we got Lil Peep Come Over When You're Sober Part 2, Muse Simulation Theory, Imagine Dragons Origins, the new cupcakKe album, Eden, I Don't Know How But They Found Me EP, and whatever else I happen to stumble upon that I'm brave enough to check out. Of course, we gotta start off with cupcakKe, you know, naturally. You for Eyes, I found to be intolerable. God, please! I had so many bad images engraved into my head after listening to You for Eyes. Now, if you're unfamiliar with cupcakKe, help me! Me! Yeah, that chick. She apparently can rap pretty good about sex. Let's check out what she's got for us on her new project, Eden.
Souls be all bark, no bite.
This for the cupcakKe a joke.
1 million into you, bro.
This is so much better. What the? There's some serious Wayne influence on here, but goddamn, man.
Straight weight, yeah, ain't none of that. I be making bitches mad.
Whoa! That's all I can say, man. Goddamn! How do I even say this? That my initial impressions incredibly positive. Literally, first song, and I already know this is going on my checkout list. Okay. The checkout list is as simple as this. I'm not listening to everything on camera. That's ridiculous. So I'm going to have a list of albums that piqued my interest throughout this video, and I want to give them a bit more time. Alright, next up. I don't know how, but they found me 1981 extended play. I don't know how they found me. It's like the former Panic at the Disco going off and doing his own solo work, which kind of sounds similar to Muse and Panic at the Disco. Can't say I'm impressed. It's actually pretty boring as But that is not enough to stop me from checking this out today. Cause goddamn, we gotta please the people. I know the people like this stuff. And you know what? Maybe I will too. Okay. That was so corny. Unfortunately, I don't think that sound is my sound particularly. I find it a little, I guess, simple. It sounds like commercial music. But does that mean you can't enjoy it? Not at all. In fact, I would recommend, if you like this kind of music, to absolutely go check this out, because it sounds like it was done quite well. Now, of course, I don't think I'm going to be coming back to this, but maybe I will. You know what? I'm considering it. Maybe I'll give this a second chance. It's going on my checklist. Maybe I'm missing what's going on here. Maybe it's something really special. It didn't appear lyrically, but, you know, certainly worth a shot. Next up! Before we get into the big ones, we gotta finish a couple of the smaller ones. I'm talking Trippie Redd, Love Letter to You 3. Trippie Redd already dropped an album this year, which I have not checked out yet, and I feel bad for not checking it out, because Trippie Redd has actually won me over quite a bit this year. His new project, 16 songs, 43 minutes. I'm just gonna shuffle. Let's see what we hit. Yeah, he's high as I hate the lyrics, this is so boring. Hey! Look, I've only heard a little bit of this so far, and all I can say is lyrically this is awful. It's so underwritten. God, this is uninspired if anything. But I'm still gonna check it out because it's Trippie Redd. Come on. Trippie Redd is the definition of a mixed bag. We cannot judge him off of 2 bad cuts. Throw him on the checklist. But now it's time to get to the ones that really matter. That's right, we're going to listen to Imagine Dragons. Oh boy. Now Imagine Dragons last year came out with Evolve. And it sucked. It was awful. Imagine Dragons and Muse, ironically enough, are both just turning into electronic bands. As you can see, the people seem to be agreeing, and the critics, because their average score has steadily gone down. Now it is down into the 30s. Oh boy. Imagine Dragons, if they're in a session they're never going to be able to come out of, they've just fallen off completely. It comes down to the fact that they are just an aesthetic nightmare, especially with their electronic direction that they've taken. They do not work. As much as they think they do, they don't. So, 52-minute album, Origins, deluxe version. Holy shit. Reggae Dance House, of course. Already bored, next song. For the arena rock sound that's aged poorly, this sounds alright. This is okay. I don't really like this sound, but it's better. But it's so pop drenched. God, stop! This is actually copying Kanye's production, no joke. You can tell it was inspired by a song like New Friends if you just hear the instrumental. Arguably, this song is not a poorly done pop song, but it's a poorly done song. Holy shit! That's been 10 minutes. I think we can call it right there. Woo! That hurt. Wow, this album is a snoozer. Damn, man. Nothing initially stood out as awful. But, there's going to be a thunder on here. I promise you. It is going to show up. And we're going to be welcome to it. And I'm going to have to listen to it. Because guess what? That was already on my checklist. Expect a full review of that at the end of this video. God. Wow, that was not a good first impression. Next up, we're finally here, the new Muse album. Everyone wants me to listen to Muse, and I have listened to some Muse. I heard Origin of Symmetry, and I did do a reaction of it. I recorded it. I never released it, so, you know, you can't watch it. But I have heard it, and that's what matters, you know. I'll just talk about this new album. One thing about Muse is they're often known for, well, one, ripping off Radiohead, and two, being insanely inconsistent. This seems to be no different. It doesn't look like a lot of people are falling in love with this new Muse project. However, the new single that I heard from them was okay. It was actually not terrible in comparison to a lot of this other pop stuff that we're hearing. Considering that a rock band is, again, going electronic, for what I've heard already, it's not been terrible. It's an hour and 20 minutes! 21 songs, super deluxe version. Who the hell would want to listen to a super deluxe version? I'm sorry, but like, no one has the time for that shit. So instead, I'm just gonna listen to the regular version because I honestly don't have 20 hours to burn. Not a bad aesthetic though. Okay, it's been a minute, we get it. I like the atmosphere a lot. I imagine the vibe that this album is going for is going to be very futuristic. It's going to be a Tron sort of environment that it's trying to build. And already off the bat, it's doing a good job at that. So you can't really knock it off for that. I'm gonna say initially, I don't think the hate is warranted because this is not that bad. In fact, I'm throwing it on my checklist even though it was already on my damn checklist. I literally overlapped it. God, I need to seriously figure out what the hell I'm doing. Is it bad? Not at all. In fact, I'd say it's completely overhated and the hate is not warranted at all. Then again, that's just the first two songs. It can absolutely fall off. But the fact that this thing is getting as much hate as it is, it sounds alright. Certainly, it's definitely an electronic album. But if you go in understanding that and understanding what they're trying to do, it definitely is not nearly as bad as everyone makes it out to be. I would say check this out, see if it's for you. Alright, I think we got all the mainstream stuff out of the way. Yes! Oh wait, and the last popular one, before we forget, the new Lil Peep, Come Over When You're Sober Part 2. Now, of course, if you don't know, Lil Peep, he passed away. And this is an album that was released prior to that, which is always pretty crazy. Regardless, the teaser tracks have been really good. I've enjoyed most of them. They've carried this teenage type of angst to all of them. This whole F the world kind of attitude. It's been pretty entertaining. Considering I really disliked Part 1, I think Part 2, from what I've heard, has been pretty good. So I'm excited to see what exactly this project has in store. So what do you say we just jump right into it?
I gotta go right. Y'all been plotting on me, praying I fall.
Yeah, this is not a good opening track.
Wait for me
I will say this project's definitely not nearly as exciting as I thought it would be.
While the singles alone are cool, a whole project like this is not really winning me over. Yeah, this is definitely one that I was disappointed by. I'm just bored. I don't find this that interesting, especially considering I found the vibe of the singles to be quite infectious, but in a full project, I certainly find this to be tedious and it runs out of ideas quickly. Personally, I don't know if I'm going to really review this one today. I'll just say initially, not really piquing my interest. That's not going to make it on the checkout list, but I'm glad that I gave it a try. That is going to be it for this part of the episode. We are out of the listening corner. We are going to go and jump over to the analysis center. Of course, the analysis center is going to be filmed on a separate day. I'm going to be giving each of these albums on my checklist a couple of listens and give you guys my final thoughts. All right. Cupcake Eden. This is an example of speaking way too soon, mostly because this project does not really improve on the issues that I had with You for Eyes. But what I can give this project is that while it's clearly not for me, I can definitely see the crowd that this kind of music has. And I can admire that really greatly. She has a lot of positive messages for LGBTQ. And I know it's kind of weird to say beautiful for a cupcake album, but there are moments on here where you just kind of see the inspiration that she gives off, and I've seen how the crowd kind of reacts to her. So while I don't think that this project is that much different from her last effort, there are some major improvements kind of all around the board. There are definitely still those raunchy cuts that cupcakKe is known for on here. But one thing that I can give her is that she oozes personality. She's in a lane of her own, and I can respect that. While certainly I don't really care for this project, if you liked her last project or any of her other work, I would definitely recommend you check this out, because honestly, if you're a fan of cupcakKe, you'll probably enjoy this quite a bit. So while for me this is a 5++, I would still say maybe check it out, see if it's for you. I don't know how, but they found me. EP. I gave this a few more tries, but I just kept getting the same result. It's very boring and it's being way too safe. I don't feel like these guys are really trying anything new on this EP. Maybe I just have an issue with everything sounding like it's a car commercial, but I just cannot get into this. However, if you like music that's in this indie scene, like if you like Killers or Panic at the Disco or any of the nameless, faceless indie bands that are out there, I would say give this a listen, because it's innocent music. It's something that can go in the background and you won't really care too much about. I can commend it on aesthetic. I think that the songs sound alright, but I cannot get past the fact that every time one of them plays, I feel like I'm watching a car commercial, and it feels really uninteresting and unadventurous. For me, this was a 4-. Trippie Redd, A Love Letter to You 3. I really disliked the first two Love Letter to You albums from Trippie Redd. And they have grown a bit on me, just kind of to this level of mediocrity, mostly because Trippie Redd, he has this very unique style to him that, if used correctly, can puncture the heart of the listener. However, he's really rarely lived up to this. He's always played it safe to at least some degree. He never really seems to live up to his full potential. With A Love Letter to You 3, I mentioned that I kind of expected a mixed bag with this album. Instead, I just got a lot of really lackluster and upsetting tracks that didn't do anything for me. It has really no weight. It feels soulless, and it's poorly written all around the board. I found the lyrics to be incredibly uninspired. It's definitely some of the most senseless material from Trippie thus far, and I really wish that he at least poured a little more of his heart out onto this project, because it's a very gutless effort. For me, this was a 4-. So the new Muse album, Simulation Theory, I had a lot of high expectations for this album. Certainly the singles that I heard, I thought people were over-exaggerating as bad, because going electronic is not automatically a bad thing. We saw that this year with Jack White with Boarding House Reach. So why can't Muse do it? Why wouldn't Muse be able to make an electronic album that works? Well, I think one of the reasons is because if you look at the Jack White album, he was really doing something completely new. He was using his electronics to kind of help his vision in terms of what he wanted his album to be. Muse does do this in terms of their Tron-like futuristic sound. Unfortunately, their sound is very flat on this album, nearly to the point of just sounding like non-existent lo-fi paste. The mixing is just poor, and I don't think that I'd come back to an electronic album with mixing that feels this unfinished. I really did try to make the best of it, and I certainly don't hate it. The sound of this project doesn't feel too off from some of their other work, and it doesn't feel like a complete redefinition of the band. The vocal performances sound like they always have, but that's kind of the problem. There's no evolution past the fact that they have gone electronic. It's very two-dimensional, and it drags on very long, despite having some really creative ideas on it, and genuinely fun moments like Propaganda or on Break It To Me. And on Something Human, it kind of takes this really generic song formula and does something, you know, a little cool with it. And there's certainly exciting moments, but I don't think that I can really recommend this. It tries to do something cool, but is really just afraid to go all the way. However, I can recommend that you check out Jack White Boarding House Reach if you're curious of how someone can take this ambitious spirit and give it some justice. This album for me is a 5+. Not a horrible effort, but they can do much better. The last album, of course, that was on the list was Imagine Dragons Origins. Last year they came out with Evolve, which was a very frustrating album. I really wish that I could still enjoy Imagine Dragons. I have a feeling that Imagine Dragons doesn't really even enjoy Imagine Dragons anymore. This album just kind of feels like a hollow shell of a band crushing their physical form into a mold, and that mold is just radio friendliness. I can definitely make fun of I Don't Know How But They Found Me for sounding like a car commercial compilation, but these guys are literally pushing the car commercial boundaries. They're like the Honda trailblazers. They're making the music that the car commercials are going to start using in the next generation. The song Natural, starting off the album, is kind of funny because it just kind of starts off by showing the fatal flaw of this album, and it's that it's an unstable, messy force. The frontman Dan Reynolds does not understand his strengths as a lyricist or an artist this far into the band's career. They make commercially successful music that kind of sounds like a League of Legends soundtrack for gamer girls who basically do TikTok song like voiceovers. And I don't even like being cynical towards this band, because when I was listening, I was really trying to be open-minded. And maybe it's because they kind of hold this special spot to me. I feel like they have this potential that they're just not completely fleshing out. Either way, this album just felt sad listening to, just due to the fact that it was so unenjoyable. However, there are a lot of positives for this album that I feel are being very overlooked. I really like the flow and the transition from songs. In fact, for the majority of this album, it transitions really smoothly, song to song, throughout the entire length of this album, which is actually quite impressive. On top of that, the vocals sound way more enthusiastic and passionate than they did on Thunder, while there definitely are a lot of spotty moments on this album. The production of this album, well, it's very messy, it sounds expensive, and there's definitely this sound to it that feels very epic. So the project is not all low points, and it's kind of in its own lane in a strange way. Unfortunately, this album kind of suffers heavily from the same issue that The Click by AJR had. And that's right, it's completely tone deaf. It isn't nearly as bad as that album, but certainly it does not know how to overcome its obvious flaws. The singing in this album is abysmal at points, and it's very cliche. I think that the songwriting, though, is definitely the worst part of this album, mostly because song subjects are incredibly uninspired and horrifically executed. Example, Boomerang. You can't listen to that song and take that seriously. That's an impossible task. Honestly, I'm just really glad that I went in open-minded, though, because there really is a lot more to say here than it's just a garbage project, because it definitely has a fatal flaw that stops it from ever being a respected album. That is mostly the awful lyrics being so goddamn corny, and the fact that the sound is such an aesthetic nightmare. I definitely recommend that you skip over this album. I know they can do better. It's just completely uninspired. And if you're an Imagine Dragons fan, pick out favorites if you have any, and I have a feeling that you're just going to regret buying the project if you purchase it as a whole. For me, this is a 2++. The last album I'm going to talk about, this isn't going to be a full review, but I did want to mention, I was listening to the Lil Peep album earlier in this episode, but I came back to it, and I have a really weird feeling about this, mostly because the fact that Lil Peep has passed away. And it's resulted in me listening to his work in a completely new way. Specifically in terms of the subject matter of this album, it feels very morbid. There's this serious, real darkness while listening to this that I'd never really experienced on his previous work, and I think it's only because he passed away. And I don't really think that I can fairly judge this album because of that. It still sounds very similar to his last project. Despite liking the singles, there's so many cuts on this project that sound like they were ripped directly from part one. Lyrically, it's nothing stellar, but it's definitely something to where it's not a matter of how well put together it is, but rather just how real it is. And there's something about this thing that if you're looking for a really morbid listen, like just due to circumstance, I'd say listen to this, but it's really frustrating. Anyways, that is the end of this first pilot episode of Brad's Weekly Tasting. What did you guys think of these albums? What would you rate them? Is there anything that I missed? Is there anything that's coming out next week that you want me to check out? Make sure you leave that down below, as well as leave a like, and if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do that and hit those notifications. It helps me out greatly. I have a Patreon down below, as well as a Discord, both of which please check out. I'll see you guys in 2019. Peace.